Hello everyone, this video is to talk about this LMS 2024 project, um, and this is actually the very first video, so what I want to cover is just a high-level overview of like what the point of this is and how you can get started, as well as some like useful tips and advice just as we get started here. Just a quick summary. You probably already seen this because if you filled out the survey and then got my email as well as my other annoying messaging. But basically, what I'm trying to do here is have a long-running software project that people like you, like students, rookies, like generally low, entry-level people, can participate in and get a sense of what the software development lifecycle is, or SDLC. My thinking with this project is to give something that's kind of easy and basic, let's say, in terms of the coding. So my expectation is that the kind of expectation here is that you've done a Hello World program before. And if you haven't, that's fine. You'll be able to figure it out. So the idea is to really have a low requirement in terms of your programming ability, and instead, you'll be programming here, but it'll be easy stuff. And instead, what you'll be learning and doing is kind of the other processes that are in the SDLC, like using issues, creating pull requests, code reviews, as well as some CI/CD stuff. It's my hope that later on, as this project progresses, we'll even do some like infrastructure management. So I want to host a website and maintain it and stuff, but that's really getting far ahead of ourselves. For now, we're just starting with a very basic console app, and that's what we'll be getting started with. So I'm on the GitHub page for our project. If you don't know what GitHub is, it's basically like a Google Drive or OneDrive for software. The name is GitHub because it uses Git. The best way to describe Git is a very kind of complicated. It's kind of a very formal way of organizing everyone's work together. Everyone's code together in a way that people can contribute at the same time. Another way to think of it is Git exists because whenever we're making changes to our code, we want that code to be peer-reviewed and verified for correctness. And if you just had like a Google Drive or something where anyone can type in, well, I can go onto your Google Drive and just type in a bunch of nonsense, right? And you wouldn't have a way of checking. So Git exists to provide a bit more structure to this process. So if you're seeing this video, you should probably already have access to this repository. You can certainly visit it, like it's public, but you should hopefully also be listed as a collaborator. We currently have 13 people signed up, which is pretty good. It's actually a little bit higher than I expected, so this first few weeks might be a little boring. But I did try to create tasks that everyone can do. Now, when you're on GitHub, on our GitHub, I try to put all the useful things in a README. One, we have a little wiki website. So this is like a full-blown website, and it's very sparse right now, but there's stuff like how to get started, like what you need to be downloading, some stuff about the GitHub CLI as well. For you maybe a little bit more veteran people. Oops, I went back too far. But there's even a page on what I'm hoping our development practices should be. And the reason why I have a document right about like how we should develop together is because every place and every team is going to tackle that differently. So it always helps to write things down very explicitly because, I might come from my experiences and you come from your experiences, and we'll have different ideas of what's going on. So I know that's a lot to take in. I really want to just focus on things that you can do right now. And the things you can do right now is set up your development environment. So I actually want to go back to the wiki and get into getting started. And please read this page over. There's some basic stuff about how to get started with Git. I tried as much as possible to just kind of give you links for other stuff to read through. For example, with Git, you can just Google it, and the Git website has a lot of actually useful tutorials and whatnot. That's not to say that you won't run into issues, but I didn't want to like overwrite a bunch of documentation and then nobody finds it useful, and then I end up missing stuff that people are having trouble with. So to get started, please, this is kind of what I generally expect people to be using. The first one is VS Code. This is not Visual Studio. This is a similar program developed by the same company, but it's entirely, the only thing it's similar about it is the name. So there's a link to it there. It's available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. Next thing I want you to download is Obsidian. Obsidian is a kind of like a wiki tool, like a note-taking app. It's what we use to help build this whole website. So I want people to use that because one, it's a great way to get started with Git without knowing how to code. But two, I want everyone to be documenting stuff, and I will be firm on that rule. And the last thing to download is .NET. There's a link to it there. .NET is basically kind of the umbrella term we use for like C# programs. It also includes things like F# and whatnot. But we'll be using it to program in C#. And that's what this project is going to be using initially. It's just some good old C#. Again, we're trying to just have something that's kind of easy and approachable for everyone. It downloads those three things. I believe it will work across Windows, Linux, and Mac. I'm on Linux myself. I've used a similar thing in Windows. I don't own a Mac, but I'm assuming it works there. But if not, please let me know. That's one thing to get started with. The next thing, once this slow computer loads, is to check out there's a Slack link. So if you're comfortable, and I hope you are, please join our Slack. That way, if you run into issues, we can chat about it and help each other out. I also have this intro discussion post. So in GitHub, we have this thing called discussions. They're basically like forums for people. And I made 2 posts. So I made a first post about getting started. That's containing basically all the information I'm spitting out here. But I'm more of a reader myself, so I love having a reference there. And then my next post is kind of it's a poll, so it's something you can fill out. And it's just kind of going over what our initial like direction should be, because I didn't want to take, as much as I wanted to have like a clear focus for the project, I didn't want to like do a topic that like people really hated. Right now I want to do like a D2L, like learning management type vibe, but if people really hate it, then I am definitely open to changing my mind about that. So please check those out. And yeah. Next, here we have our issues. So what a GitHub issue is it's not, first of all, it's not one thing. And every project kind of uses it differently. The way we're using it is to track our work. We might use it to track like bugs or problems later on, but we have basically no code, so we don't have to worry about that yet. So for the main part, it's going to be tracking our work. And I did a few special little automation magic things here to make it fun for everyone. The first is you might notice that there's 2 issues that has this, like, we call this a label, but it's been basically tagged with everyone. So basically what will happen is for all of these issues, everyone gets assigned to it by default, and then GitHub creates basically duplicate issues that's assigned to each individual person. So, and that includes me, but I just ended up completing mine already. So this first sprint, or like very first week into our coding, I created two really basic issues. We might also call them like tickets. If I use the word tickets, I really mean issues. One is just modifying our wiki, and the second is kind of adding a hello world bit to our code. So how does this, how would you complete this? So in your first week, what you'll want to do is find an issue that's been assigned to you. Handy little tool up on the top left corner is the filters, so you can filter stuff that's assigned to you. And I created this demo issue for this video just to see. So this issue description is actually pretty poor. So basically in every issue, I want to have something like the task. So because these issues are tracking what we're doing, we want to make sure that every issue, we know how the issue is going to be completed, right? So for this demo issue, it is complete when a hello world page is created in the wiki with the contents of hi everyone. Oh, let's say just make it the same. Hello world. Okay, so you'll find an issue. I'll show the other ones because I promised they're not as ambiguous. So for example, for the credits one, let's add our names to the credits. Each of us should add a new function that returns our name and adds a function to the general credits function. So I already created one. So you basically, for this task, will just look at the code, see what I've done, and then basically mimic it. I'll actually show it in this video. The easier kind of variant of that, and you can complete both if you want, and I hope you do, is hello wiki. First thing is you want to set up your development environment. And then to complete this issue, create an entry for yourself under wiki contributors. So that's like the folders. And I created one for myself as a reference. So we'll see both of those changes because I already completed them for this video as we get going. But notice that my task is different. So as this project progresses, we'll have a bunch of different issues, all asking for different things. And oh, I misspelled complete there. And you know, the great thing about issues is it helps us keep organized, right? We can see who's assigned to a particular issue. That prevents two people from doing the same thing. We also can use fun labels in projects and milestones, for example. That really helps. Like, it's sometimes hard as just like a coder to see like how your work is relating to like the overall like vibe or organization. But I promise, kind of coming from the other side, it really does help. So I found my issue. It's been assigned to me. And so I can go ahead and create a branch. So what a branch is it's basically like a scratch space. So and it's easier to explain kind of in practice than just with words. So what will happen is I'll create a branch on my repository, and then I will work on it, completing this task. And then when I'm ready, I will make a pull request and incorporate those changes. And that pull request will be a way for people to review my work. So I will not have any opinions about what your branch name should be. My main thing is to have your branch name created through this way so that it's linked up. So I'm just going to hit OK. And it's going to give me some commands to follow. So you will be needing to use Git. I know Git can be a painful thing for people to use. So I didn't provide much guidance on how to install Git. But depending on how we are as a team, I can certainly sit down with people and help them get started. I'll actually go to this main area, and we want to clone this repository. So to clone this, we'll go to code, and then we'll go to GitHub CLI. If you're familiar with the other ways to do it, you can do it through there. I really recommend, especially if you're getting started, to download the GitHub CLI. But you can do you. And I actually have another area where I clone this, but I'll make kind of like a temporary directory so that it's a little clearer. So I'm in Linux, so I'm going to be using the console a lot. There is this thing called like GitHub Desktop, I think, for Windows, which is it's like a visual way to use Git. If you're a Mac, I really recommend using that. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll make a new. Whoops. I'll open up VS Code and then just clone it to there. I'm really struggling with my computer today. So here I have Visual Studio Code. My computer is very slow. It's like 7 years old, so I do apologize for that. However, once the things load, there's also no bar up top. So I'm going to kind of just use the commands. I did something fancy because I'm using Linux to hide that bar. I do apologize. It's not a good choice on my part. But if I do Control-Shift-P, as it says there, I can enter a command. You can see the little guy comes up there. And then I can just type in git. And I think there's one that says clone. There's like recursive clone. I don't know what that does. But we'll just do that. Git clone. I'm pretty sure it should be asking me what to clone. But I honestly just got rid of it. Clone. I can actually just choose clone from GitHub. I do have the GitHub extensions and all that. But just to be safe, I'll use the HTTPS thing. So I'll go back to. Well, actually, there's a fun thing over here. So I'll go clone git repository, and then I can do that. Paste it in. I think you can just paste in this URL. That should work too. And I can just click clone. Now it's going to ask me a folder to clone it to, and I already do have one existing, so that's actually what I've been working on originally. So just to make things like easier, I'll put in my temp directory here. I'll click OK, and it's opening, and it asks me what it is. Open it, and I do. Now, when we created this issue, it gave us this command to run to get to this branch, and of course, I got rid of it in my clipboard because I had to copy other things. So what do we do? Well, once this thing loads, you'll notice on the bottom left there's a thing called main. This is just the branch you're on. So in our project, our like central branch is called main, and you can think of that as like the final draft. So we do not ever really want to push changes straight to main. You'll notice if you peek around the repository that I did a bunch, but that was for good reasons, I promise. But officially we don't. Officially, we want to commit our changes through a separate branch, get all of our work in a good spot, and then create a pull request, and then people can review it, and if they like it, they can merge it to main, right? They can approve it, and then the changes get to merge to main. And so that way, anything that's getting into main has been peer reviewed. So I'll click this little branch thing. It should have like a little lock on it, and then main. And you can see it found my remote branch for me. If it didn't find it, sometimes if you circle on it, it'll help. But we are going to our branch, and you notice that little lock disappeared, right? Because Git figured out that I'm not on a protected branch, so I can actually push to this one. So here is our code. I'll show off a few neat things. One, you'll notice that we have this folder called wiki, and in this wiki folder, it actually has everything that's on our main website. So like the getting started and whatnot. You can certainly like edit the wiki from here, but you notice it's like, you know, there's a fun links, but it doesn't really look good on there. And that's because these are for Obsidian. So here is Obsidian, which is our note-taking app, and this is the same file. So it's a little bit tricky to get used to, but there is some benefits, there are some benefits, and that is that all of our stuff, you know, is collected in the same repository. So it's not like we have a, you know, sometimes if you have a wiki on Confluence, nobody ends up looking at Confluence because it's on some other website and it's a kind of a hassle to edit. So instead, you know, as you're working on the code, my hope is that you'll also see this wiki thing. Maybe you'll just put a few snippets here and there. And then if you need to do stuff like proper lookups or whatnot, you can open Obsidian to the same spot and then get started there. And while we're on the wiki, here's one of your tasks is to create a file like this. So it's in the wiki contributors, and mine's emilharvey.md. And you don't have to go as fancy as I did, but if you want, you can see that I have these fun little checkboxes. I put my pronouns there. You can add properties if I want. And I just talked about myself over here. And this is actually the same stuff. So you notice that we get this fun checkboxes over here, but it's just, it's just code, right? Basically, it's just text. So if I, for example, change this to false, which is very slow, I don't know how well it will. I think if I go back to it, oh my gosh, it does not. It's probably doing some like caching or something to. Maybe if I did that. Oh, you know what? I'm silly. Remember that I cloned this to the temp directory. So this is actually from the original directory. So sorry. I should probably revert that change. Anywho, ignore all of that. They are reflecting the same like files, but I have basically two copies of this single repository. So that's why they don't sync up with each other. Anyways, in terms of our actual code, that's in our app folder. Your other task is going to be to kind of add on to here. So you notice I have a private string eHarvey credits. And then I have this function called get credits, which basically is just returning that. So if you were to complete this task as well, you'll add a new function like private string SAM credits, and then you'll add that to here, to like a little apostrophe and then like SAM credits, or it's giving me the suggestion Ethan Harvey. I don't know who Ethan Harvey is, but it keeps, if I put E Harvey, it really wants my name to be Ethan. But yeah, that's basically the other tasks that assigned to everyone. Okay, so I yapped long enough. Let's see. Remember that our task was to ignore that typo and to create a hello world page in the wiki with the contents hello world. So let's complete that. We'll go to our wiki. We'll create a file. Now I notice that the other pages end with .md, so I'm not gonna fight that. I'm gonna do hello world.md, and then I'll say hello world. I'll look at the other pages too, just to make sure. And that looks fine to me. So I made my change. So that's completing this task, but I'm not done yet. I need to commit these changes. So to do that, what I'll do is I really recommend, as you're getting started, to just use this left-hand source control thing. When you're using Git, you can use the commands, or I really should say or you can use the thing Visual Studio Code gives you. Both are great, and I use both of them. I use this mainly until I get into a situation that I really kind of are in a pickle, or maybe I'll get into a situation where I know a sequence of commands that will get me out of it. Might not know what they do exactly, but I know I'm going to get out of it. So I'll just revert to the command line. You can mix and match, right? So I'll use, I can commit through here and push through the command line and vice versa. But as you're getting started, just use this. And so some very useful things to know here. One, I can double click this file. So this is the file I created, right? And it gives you a look at what has changed. So here, because we created the file, basically it said, from nothing, you added one line of hello world. And you can do fancier things with Git with that, but don't worry about that. So this is great. I really recommend you start to get comfortable with this, because this is kind of like your first spot of review. One, maybe there'll be files that you don't want to commit, right? Like you have password or something. So when you come into here to commit your changes, like read over the files, right? Make sure you're not uploading files that you don't want to. Second, you can split up your commits. So sometimes this is piece of advice where they say, keep your commits as like small as possible. So maybe you've been working a lot and you realize that you've actually been working on like two things and not just one thing. What you can do is just commit like some of your files in one commit and then commit the rest of your files in another commit. So there's a lot of options of what you can do. For now, you won't need to worry about those things because you are just, your tasks are very small. Just add a little, about me on the wiki and add yourself to the credits. So hopefully those are small enough that you don't find yourself, with a bunch of files all over the place changed. And lastly, that it does end up becoming a very good kind of, quick check. If you go to this commit page and you find like a million things has changed, something has gone wrong, right? You should be able to kind of recognize what you've changed here. So with all that out of the way, I'll go ahead and click this plus. So basically what this plus will do is it'll put it into staged. So this is not committed yet. It's basically saying if I was to click this button, it'll commit the changes to my branch. However, before I do that, I want to add a little message. And I want to say something like add hello world page. Now, to be extra fancy, I can even say it completes 37. So you notice I put the number sign here, and it pulled up my issues. This is because I downloaded basically all the GitHub extensions. I'll add that. I'll make a post in the Slack about what extensions I'm using. So I really like that because now even just from a commit level, you can see exactly where that commit. Why does that commit exist? Like why does that piece of code change exist? Oh, it's to fulfill this issue. So it's very helpful. Like it's very nice and it's very satisfying to see your changes like be able to be traced down. So this is everything I'll need to do to make the commit. So I'll go ahead and click commit and I'll wait. Now you'll notice something has happened, which is the button has changed to sync changes. So just because I've committed it doesn't mean that it's shown up here. So if I go to this issue, or this branch, there should be a nice little thing that says that it's 0 commits ahead or something. This branch is up to date with main. So what this basically means is that my branch is exactly the same as what main is. So that means that GitHub does not know about that one change I made because I need to sync it, right? So I committed the change. The change is on my machine, but now I need to sync that commit to GitHub. So I'll go ahead and do that. And you notice not much has happened, except now GitHub's one thing really amazing about GitHub these days is that it's very responsive. So instantly, basically, it's told me, hey, this recent pushes. And it'll ask you if you want to compare and make a pull request. You don't need to, because if you go to pull requests, I went ahead and made a little piece of automation to do it for you. If you end up making it, that's fine. But I did this. There's a very weird reason that I did this. It's because the actions is different from the. It's just so that I can review it. It's kind of a weird reason. If it ends up becoming too annoying, I'll get rid of it. But otherwise, I can go ahead. It'll give you like a blank description. Wonder if I can. I'll just say number 37. So it's a completes number. So it's just like in Visual Studio Code, on the GitHub website, you can kind of, it auto suggests links for you. And then I can hit commit update or update comment. And you notice it says this pull request is a work in progress. So when my little piece of automation creates a pull request for you, it'll make it as a draft. And when you're ready, you can click ready for review. And then you'll notice you probably won't end up seeing this extra warning secret option. But for the what you'll see instead is that merging is blocked because it needs one approving rule, a review. And so this is where the review comes in. So in theory, nobody should be able to make changes until it's been reviewed by at least one other person. It also has to be reviewed by me, but I might get rid of that requirement later. So I myself as a signee, this does not mean I'm the reviewer. This just means I'm the person responsible for the changes. The reviewer is what I'm interested in. So you notice my name is already selected, right? Because I always have to be a reviewer on everything, at least for right now. So I'll go ahead and review my changes. So I can go to file just changed. And this is where you'll perform your review. So you notice, very simple, right? There's just one thing that's been changed. And it says hello world. I can add a comment. I can say like, looks great, well done, right? And I can start a review. And I can finish my review too. So this is why having small changes is nice, because it's easy to review. So I'm going to try to keep our issues small. And then as you go complete your coding, those changes should be small. And then when you push those changes and people check on it, people should have an easy time doing it. And it won't be hard for them. So I'll go ahead and approve the changes. I can also request changes. I don't know why it says pending there. But otherwise, I'm just going to hit approve, and I'll say smiley face. There's so many places to put comments, so I always try to put a lot of smiley faces everywhere. And I can submit my review. And then when we get back to the issue page, once my computer finally loads, you notice my little comment there. And GitHub should become happy with me and let me merge these changes. I need to resolve this conversation, so I'll resolve it. But you notice this is a great spot, right, for review. So say I found an issue and I said, oh, I don't think you spelled hello right. I can make a comment there. The code author can go back and be like, oh, you're right, or you're wrong, right? And you can have that discussion there. And while you have that discussion, you can reference the actual code. So it's a lot better approach than say like going on Slack or Discord and just like copying a screenshot, because you waste a lot of time like going back and forth between the tools. And you notice we got all the greens, and I can go ahead and squash and merge this. There are two options that I'm going to allow for this repository: squash and merge, and create a merge commit. I actually probably prefer merge commits, but yeah, either one is fine. The one I really don't like is rebase. There's actually merit to it, but I don't think we'll need it for now. The other thing you'll notice that's nice is once I click merge a request and confirm it, it'll delete that branch for you. So when you go back to VS Code, you should always go here and then go back to main, because otherwise you're going to be working on a branch that technically still exists on your computer, but does not exist on GitHub, and you'll just run into problems. And you notice that now the sync changes, so now it wants to download, it wants to pull some changes from origin. That's because we completed the merge here. So we've taken my changes, we've merged it, but we merged it on GitHub, right? So back on our VS Code, we can go and click this. So for the full magical effect, you'll see no hello world page here. We'll go down and we'll sync it, and then now we have our hello world. So that's how that change got incorporated. And it wasn't just like willy-nilly, like I made the page and then pushed it straight to our main copy. I did so through a very organized and deliberate process. And that's the point of this project as a whole, is to have a very, to show off more of this rather than just the code, right? Because we will learn the coding from like lead code or whatever. The other thing I want to show you is that handy thing over here is the issue that created all of this work. And you notice that GitHub, what it has done is it went ahead and closed it, because we merged the change. So the GitHub itself created the pull request and linked it to this issue, so to this task. I worked, I approved it, I closed it, and then so that's been merged. And so because that was merged, GitHub is like, oh, okay, so number 37 is done. And that's how that work got completed. And now we have a lot of like traceability of like how, like why the changes get happen. So I can go through the commits. I can, and you can see, remember in that commit I made, I put the number 37 there. So even from the commit level, we can see that the linkage. So if I go to this issue and I'm like, okay, we had this task, like when was it done? I can just read through and be like, oh, it was done specifically on that commit, which is a very powerful thing. So that's just like ended up being a very in-depth walkthrough of how this project is going to go. As I said before, there are some issues for everyone. And these issues are the Hello Wiki and Hello Credits ones, and should be assigned to everyone. I will have to double check that people get assigned. I think one new person got added, so I have a lot of automations running in the background that hopefully will keep this all organized, but we will see. I do have some other tasks to complete. One is to add a database to our app. So we are using C#, but at some point we need a database. So if you're a little bit more like technically inclined, in the survey, some people said they're pretty confident with C#. So I created this task for you keeners out there. So that's something strictly on the back end. The other two tasks that I have are the build pipeline and test pipeline. They're very similar, but they're more on the operations side. So what I would want is similar to some of the automations you've seen up here. I want an automation so that when we make a pull request, it'll run some unit tests. And what that will let us do is see kind of how the tests are doing before we merge. Similarly with building, I want it so that every time we push something to, like whenever something ends up in main, so like whenever we make a pull request and that gets completed, I want GitHub to build a new app for us. So basically, in this case, just a new exe or Linux binary or Mac binary, whatnot. So these ones are a little more tricky. So definitely reach out and we can work together if you want. Speaking of, I do not know why this is assigned to me. It really should not be. I self-assigned. Why did I do that? Okay, so yeah, that is also open. If people don't feel comfortable doing that, that's totally fine. What I'll probably end up doing in that case is I will do it myself, but I will record myself doing it, or I will make a Zoom call or something for people to follow along. So yeah, so that's the 3 tasks. I don't have any tasks about like anything like actual app related. That's because, as I mentioned, we do have that poll over here that's asking like what our first steps should be. So once I get a sense of what our first steps should be, then I will create actual like coding tasks for people to complete. The last task I have is to change the wiki logo. So if you notice on the wiki, it has this weird quartz thing. Quartz is basically like the software we use to build this website, and I don't like it, so I want it gone. So I created this just because I noticed it's actually like 13 people working on this project, so I wanted more stuff to do. So I'll try to think of more like little small things to do. But yeah, otherwise, that is everything I have. Apologies for the length of it. I'm hoping to do kind of like a weekly like video update / kind of walkthrough every week. Might end up being every 2 weeks. But I don't, my main point is I don't want people to think that they need to wait till the next video to get help. Please join the Slack, and I will, I will accommodate. And then some people on this project have said that they're pretty well confident with a lot of things. So I'm sure there's going to be, if you don't find me very helpful, maybe someone else is more helpful. But with that, that's kind of how this week is going to go. It's mentioned in the wiki, but what I want to happen is Monday and Tuesday to be kind of freeze periods where people kind of sign up to the things they want to do. And then the actual coding work happens from Wednesday to the following Tuesday. So this video is coming out on Monday. So you have today, what's left of today, as well as tomorrow. We kind of fully decide and sign up. Again, there's basically 3 things that people could possibly sign up for. And those tasks to me seems like something one person should do. But in the coming weeks, there'll be more and more stuff to do. All right. I hope everyone has a fun time with this. Thank you.